Hey, what's up? Welcome in, everyone, to part 8 of the Maschinen Krieger Super Jerry project. And uh, yeah, the principal build is pretty much finished, and I'm going to be doing some base work, working on a little base, and maybe even some figure painting tonight. So, with that, let's get started. Boy Bringer's in the house. He's the first one in. Welcome in, everyone. This is Micah Wine here, aka Gundamonium Works, and we are live. This is part 8 of the Maschinen Krieger Super Jerry project. I've got the principal build finished, and I'm going to show that in a minute. I'm going to work on a little base and maybe even some. What up, Angel? Angel's in the house too, bright and early. I might be doing. I got to finish I actually started work on the base, and I'm kind of stuck in a spot. I'm not sure if I'm done with it. I might need to add some finishing touches. I'll get your guys' input on that in a minute, and then maybe if we get to it, then we'll get to we'll start. I started painting the figure and with the face and get a couple things like that, and I got some paint I got to mix up for the uniform he's wearing and stuff like that, but. We'll talk about that in a minute. What's up, Julius? Julius is in. How you doing, bud? Good to see you. So let's go from here. We'll go down the bench. Let me just start with this one since you can kind of see an overall. If I zoom in, it's a little bit hard to see the whole thing. So, yeah. So here's the kit on the base. I'll lift it off here in a second. I'm just going to try to tilt it back here so it kind of gives you a little bit easier view. The only thing I have not glued in place is this antenna here, and that's so I can actually remove it and flip it over to access the battery and stuff like that on the bottom. So I'm not sure I'm actually going to glue that in. I'm pretty good with just leaving it the way it is. It's a little piece of copper wire that's curved in place, and it just fits in time inside of that little antenna. So with this, it's a little bit tricky, but I'm going to hold the feet here and I'll tilt it back. So you can see the base. I scribed some lines and some cracks in there using a hook style scriber, and I'll show that in a second too. But other than that, I really need to just work on whether or not I'm done with this base. I wasn't sure where I'd be before the live stream tonight, so kind of got it. The figure's going to sit right here in the front. There's going to be some tools and stuff laying around. I'm calling this one the mechanic. So anyway, with that, let me zoom in here and just go a little closer. Now we can bring it up. So now you guys can get a little bit closer look at some of the chipping and rust effects. I think it looks really, really nice and worn. This is what I was going for. You know, Maschinen kits are typically very, very grimy. So Xeon Shadow, what is up? Hey, Mike, finally got the time to catch one. Nice. Welcome in. I appreciate you. Boybringer. I'm waiting for is the first Maschinen Krieger model kit to get here from Japan. Huh. Okay. So you ordered one then? Is that what you're saying? That's pretty cool. I got lucky because one of the local model groups a couple years ago in the area, there was an older gentleman that actually he's passed away now, unfortunately, but he was selling a bunch of his kits because his eyesight got so bad he couldn't build anymore, and it was kind of a sad story. But I lucked out by knowing the guy, and he actually messaged me and asked me if I wanted to buy some of his stuff, and ended up going down and buying a bunch of kits at a really, really cheap price. So nice. Voidbringer says yes, he's got one coming. Okay, cool. Did you order that from Hobbylink Japan or just eBay or something like that? Not that it matters, but I'm just curious because I got these by secondhand through, like I said, through another guy, and that's how it worked out. But so, hey, what's up, Nick? How's it going? left with questions in the house. And so I pulled the tape. Last week I didn't have the, I still had the masking on the glass pieces. So, and I had some other little tiny things to finish up, like these antenna back here. I had to glue those on. I had to fashion this guy on the roof. These are not glued in place, so I can, these launchers here, I can twist, and if I adjust the legs in such a way that I can go ahead and reposition those as need be. Thanks, bud. Appreciate that. It says it looks great. I like it. So, what's up, George? George is here. Missed you last week, my friend. I know you're kind of under the weather a little bit and stuff like that. So, we're just showing off the completed kit here. I've still got, I think, a little bit to do on the base. One of the things about this color, it looks very, very bright on camera. It's actually a little bit more muted and gray in person. So I want to get some input on what you guys think, whether or not. Yeah, I missed you too. Missed you too, George. I want to get you guys' input on whether I think I should add a little bit more dust maybe. I don't have any really light pigments. I was trying to look through my pigment other than white. I've got mostly brown and dirt and darker browns and black, and that's just really going to be too much for this. But I'm going to lift the kit off here in a second. I'm just kind of spinning it around close up here so everybody can see all the chipping and the rust and stuff like that. What's up, George? Hey, George. Shadow says, hey, George. What's going on? Everybody misses George. So anyway, I'm going to now just lift off the kit here, and we will talk about the base. Like I said, the only thing I didn't do is I did not glue that top antenna in place because I want to be able to remove it. It's easier for me to flip it over on its belly, on its back, and I should say, and access the battery. So this is actually the front. Okay, I'll face that toward you. I got a couple little weeds here and some cracks. I did that using this GSI hook scriber here. It's just it has a bit that, let's see if I can pull this out. It's just a bit with a tapered edge on it, and that fits right in. But it's a hook style scriber, so it has a hook on the end of it. If I can get it to focus, there it is. You can see the hook. I don't use this much anymore. I just use it for various little things like this because it made it easier for me to cut. I didn't want to use one of my regular chisels, so I used it basically to dig out these lines after I applied the concrete, and that was this AK Terrains, this concrete. So it's like a really kind of a thin, it's almost like plaster or cement, really. But that's what I used, and some spatulas to smooth this out and make a nice little concrete looking. This is a 5-inch by 5-inch block of wood that I stained with some walnut or something like that. And then I scribed just the segments, and then I ended up putting some cracks in there. The cracks kind of worked out nice because I had some little lines, basically because I couldn't get it perfectly smooth when I was using my spatula. So those little areas that were raised, I just used those as guidelines and did my cracks in there. So I think it looks pretty good. And then I got some, this is fuel stains and some oil, engine oil, stuff like that, because the kit sits on top here, and then that's right below it. So anyway, what do you guys think? Let's see. I watched last week's episode earlier today. I hate you, Mike. You make weathering look simple. Sorry, George. I got to put that on. Actually, where'd that go? I missed it. Where'd it go? Oh, gosh, there it is. I got to put that on screen. That's funny. Wife got it for me. Oh, which got what for you? Is that the mache kit you're talking about? That's cool. It's nice to have a wife that supports your hobbies too, right? So what I'm trying to decide is whether or not I need to do anything else with the concrete. Like I said, it looks a little bit brighter on camera than it is in person. Thank you, George. I appreciate that. I know you're just kidding. Believe me, it's sometimes it's nerve wracking because this is the first time I've really done this is the first time I've ever built a maquette kit. So I'm trying to make sure that it lives up to those guys that have done them for years, like Lincoln Wright and those guys that do nothing but pretty much nothing but maquette stuff. So again, I'll put the question out there: do you think this base needs anything else? Smudge some actual dirt on it. Well, I could do that. I mean, I've got various little pigments here that will work as well. These are some that I got from AIM products years ago, and I'm not even sure they're really available, but they're kind of nice. They're in these little plastic things, and they're very intense pigments. But like I said, most of them are darker colors. So I also put a little bit of moss in here using this the slimy grime light green. Put some moss in there, into those cracks to make it look like there's a little bit of vegetation there. So, and you can actually see some pigment here that I used around those areas where the weeds are coming through. So I'm not sure how much more dirt I want to try to throw at this, because I just don't want to take away from the integrity of what the concrete looks like. And so I'm not sure. I'm always the thought that more is better. If the mecha is being serviced, there will be stains and spills. Yeah, that's kind of what I did here. I might add some more of that to the area underneath it, because again, if I put this on where it goes, the feet are right about here. So the stains are just underneath kind of the front of it. And I'm okay with that. I'm just trying to figure out if I should go, add more. I added a little bit more last night before the stream. I had some smaller spots on here, and I just kind of went around and added some more. And that was using AK engine oil, also some engine grime, and fuel stains. Maybe some dirt footprints. Interesting. I wonder how I'd pull that off. Dirt footprints. You mean like somebody that stepped in one of these oil stains or something like that? Kind of like our shop, right? Is that what you're saying, Ken? There's not a clean spot on the floor anywhere. Yeah, more of a mess, I'd say. Okay. Let's say more of a mess. All right. It's hard to tell in the video, but adding tonal variations, concrete could help. Yeah, see, that's where I was at too, George. I was kind of thinking, well, gosh, how much more do I need to add to it? Because especially because this is very porous. Well, the top is very porous now. So if I start adding pigment to it, it's virtually impossible to get it off. A lot of times when we're working on a smooth surface, if you use some of these enamel products and you're like, I don't like that, you can always take it off with some enamel thinner. But once the pigments are down, especially because this is a rough surface, it clings in there and it won't come out. It's hard to tell. Let's see. What is it? Just trying to make sure I don't miss anything. Dirt footprints. I wonder if I could do that. I mean, I've got the figure sitting here. Let's talk about him for a little bit. So I started painting him. Let's see. I get him in camera here. Focus. There we go. So I airbrushed the flesh tone on there, and then added some. After that dried, I used some Citadel. This is Reichland flesh tone. Come on, focus. There we go. So that's what I used to kind of highlight the different features of the face. I still haven't painted anything else like the teeth or the eyes or anything. It's just basically started. So, and I did the buff collar around his jacket. I've got some colors to mix that I'm going to have to use for the jacket and his boots and stuff. So we'll see how far we get today. I might start doing some more hand painting on this tonight. There's really not too many colors to to do on him. It's just I've got to mix some custom colors up. But one of the nice things about this figure set is because it was a Hasegawa produced set, they have nothing but Mr. Color charts in there, and it gives me the percentages and everything to match those colors perfectly. So, yeah, we'll see how far we get tonight. So, I guess we just have to figure out whether or not I want to add some more dirt to this. Footprints might be kind of tough. I have to figure that out. Might do some leading to the front. Because the guy's basically going to sit here, and I've got this little toothpick shoved up his backside there. But that's where he's going to really just sit, is right on the front. It's kind of just chilling. Yeah, right about there. And then I've got some other little accessories that are going to go around there, like toolbox, some tools here. I just finished spraying these with silver. So I've got to go and do a reverse wash on the background there, and all those tools will light up. I've got a couple of mugs, some oil cans, and then this skewer has nothing but the tools on it. So these are some really tiny, let's see, there we go, really tiny wrenches and screwdrivers, all sorts of really tiny stuff. Skid marks and footprints on the mag. I could do that. I think I've got some. I've got two pieces left over on the original runners, because this was a Super Jerry kit. There was multiple parts. There's a little bit of variation for the Super Jerry configuration. So I actually have two extra lower foot pads that I could use to actually put some kind of a print on there. Just trying to figure out how to do it. This isn't very smooth. It's actually a textured surface. So, I do have some metal slag pigment. I wonder if that would work. I just don't have anything to test it on. I don't want to put it on here and then won't be able to get it off. But I like your idea, George. I think I thought about that before, about putting some kind of footprint or some kind of scratches or something on the surface that would indicate that they walked up and stopped in this position. But all right. Well, let's see. Let me find that metal slag. I think that's in one of my weathering kits. Where is it? Yeah, I think it's over here. This is a MIG set that I have. And in it, yeah, there it is. Pigment. Metal slag. So here it is here. Metal slag pigment. Let's see what that looks like. This is a dry pigment. I'm not using, well, it kind of almost looks brown, actually. It's pretty dark. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's pretty dark brown. Metal slag. I wonder what maybe I'm just not understanding what metal slag is. Make test blocks. Well, I don't have any more wood, Angel. I wish I did. I just don't have any more wood blocks. I only bought the one. Yeah, this looks pretty brown. It's very similar to one of my darker, probably like this, maybe not quite as dark. It's a little bit darker than the dark earth that I have here. Like test blocks. Yeah, I wish I had extra wood that I could test this on, but I don't. So I may end up just putting that aside, and I'll have to find some way of testing it before I finish this. I mean, I like where it's at. It's a good starting spot. I just need to figure out, maybe I should make these oil stains a little bit larger too. I started with fuel stain. This fuel stain is kind of shiny, and so does the engine oil. This is also very shiny. when it dries. So it kind of gives that wet look to it, which is nice. The fuel stain is a little bit, not quite what you think it would be. It's a little bit more of a orangish color to it. But if you look at what's on camera, this outer edge here, this is fuel stain here. A little bit of that engine oil in the middle. Not a full block, just a small area. Well, maybe I could flip it over. Yeah, because then I'll mess up my bushes. Because on the back of this is just bare wood. I could try that, but let's see. Let me see if I've got another piece of wood here. Look around. I know I've got at least one. All right, I don't know if this is going to work out. We're going to find out. I've got an extra base here. This is an older base. It's just basically a plain chunk of wood that I stained years ago. Let's see what this metal slag looks like. The back of it. I'm going to use one of my larger. This is the brush I primarily use for pigments, and it's just a soft. This is a Robert Simmons number 4 S85. I don't even know what kind of bristle it is really, but it's a round brush and it collects pigment kind of nicely. It's actually not bad. But it is kind of just a very dark brown. I wish I had some, let's see if I got some silver pigment. Something more metal-ish. So we're going to look at the pigment bin here. That's black. That's fixer. Here we go. Dark steel. I wonder what dark steel looks like. That might give me some. Hey, what's up? Mike's in the house. Force Ghost. What's going on, Mike? Get a paint mixing stick at Lowe's for free. Yeah, that's true. I'm going to try some of this dark steel here. I've never used it before. And again, it just looks like dark gray. Yeah, there's not a whole. I mean, I guess I was kind of hoping it had a little bit more of a silverish tinge to it. I guess it kind of does. Oh, temptations. Trying to figure out what to do here. Welcome in, Mike. We're just trying to figure out if I should, or what I should do to finish this base off. This portion of it, anyway. I'm trying to add a little bit more weathering, I guess, to it. I've got a little bit that, I've used a little bit around the cracks and stuff like that to kind of highlight those. I'm just trying to dirty up the rest of the concrete a little bit and make it look more natural without going too crazy. I think if I use the browns though, like the earths and stuff like that, it just puts off a little too much of a brownish. Although this looks very silver, but the funny thing is it just looks kind of grayish. I guess it does have kind of a light gray. This might actually work. This metal slag, or not the metal slag, the dark steel kind of has a grayish tone to it, which is more, a lot closer to concrete color than a lot of the browns that I've been using. So let's try it. It's going to go home, go big or go home. What's the worst can happen, right? Totally ruin it. No, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to try to just soften up. Now this stuff, if you've ever used pigments before, it's a very, very intense powder. Very, very fine and intense as far as like color, saturation. So you have to be a little bit, keep that in mind when you go to use it, because you can really go overboard fast. I'm going to use my test block here to kind of just take off. Just going to try to get a little bit. You know what? That's pretty good. You might not be able to see much, but I'm just going over it almost like a dry brush. And all it's doing is kind of just, it's taking those higher little bumps and stuff, the texture, and highlighting the top, highlighting those top little the rough spots, and leaving the lighter color underneath. So I kind of like where this is going. I'm just going to, I guess I'll use my test block here to kind of just get the brush a little dirty, and then I can go over it. It just kind of have a silverish color to it, which is what I was hoping for. All I'm doing on the test block is I'm putting the pigment down and just kind of swirling the brush around, because I'm just trying to get the bristles just a little coated a little bit with that gray. And you can kind of see how it's coming out. I'm trying to just blend it here and get all these little, just to make it come together. It's going to take some time because I don't want to go too overboard with it. As soon as I add too much, then it's going to be a dark spot there. But I guess that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just a matter of providing some textures of shadows, I guess. Yes, that's really, when I just do it straight off the brush, it's like almost too much. Now, let's see here. I want to use, yeah, that kind of works. I've got this pretty wide bristle brush here, but I can use this as a way of blending out those spots. Just dirtying it up a little bit. Let's see if I can. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll come away from these lines and kind of pull that gray Richie. What did Richie say? Giving it definition. Ah, gotcha. See, it's kind of hard because I don't know everybody's name yet, so sometimes I gotta figure out who George is talking about. See, he knows everybody. Everybody by first name. I'm still screwing them all up. Every time somebody says something, I'm like, who is that? It's going to take a little bit of time, but it's starting to kind of blend a little bit. This brush will fit in the bottle here, so I can actually, ooh, that's a lot. Gotta be careful. I'm using that test block to kind of just, there we go. I can pull away from these edges and then just smooth it out. Gosh. If you could see this in person, you'd be happier. Right now on camera, it kind of looks like crap. But it actually does look way better in person. So I'm just going to try to pull away, come off of these edges. It's actually, I like the way that's looking now. It's just to separate those just to come off these lines and separate, like I said, like I guess what Richie said, giving it a little bit of definition. I'm going to do this with all the different, all four sides here. I'm just going to work each quadrant. Yeah, it's starting to look a little better. Okay, now I'm getting a little bit happier with it because it just, at first I was real hesitant, but now I can start to see how this is kind of giving it a little bit more texture than just that plain concrete color. My dirt's still coming through on those areas that are where the weeds are. Then I can add more stains, of course, later on to those areas underneath the Super Jerry. Actually got quite a bit of that powder that I took out of here. It's just on my test block here, so I'm able to just keep going back to it. Pulling off that line. Just want to darken up these kind of come away from each one of these lines, just blending it away from those, so it kind of highlights them, for lack of a better term, I guess. But looks like a spot on my airport. Back in Ontario. Trying to soften them up. I don't want any of those. Just don't want anything that looks like a straight line. I'm trying to just make sure that you get some more out of the bottle. Ooh, that's a lot. Oh boy. Yeah, a little bit too much in the brush here, so I got to damp it off. I got to get rid of most of it on the board here. Just push this stuff aside there. That's better. Okay. A little bit more right here. Could even go over these cracks a little bit more too, give them a little bit, just to highlight any lines that are on it, just to kind of make it look like those surface variations. You know, cracks higher, lower, stuff like that. A little bit more that definition, like Richie was talking about. Yeah, I like where this is going. What do you think? What does everybody think so far? So far, so good. Listen to the weight. Listen to the weight of that beauty. Chris Babs, how you doing? Good to see you, as always. Just working on the final touches of this little base for the vignette, and maybe do some work with the figure. I'm actually using some metal slag, or not, yeah, metal. Is it metal slag? No, this is. I keep saying metal slag. This is the dark steel pigment I have in one of my. I bought years ago. I haven't really found a use for it till now. So, but it's just the right amount of gray that I can apply to this without changing the color. I didn't want it to be dirty, like brown dirt. You know, I wanted it to be dirty, but not. It's concrete, so it's going to be dirty, but not so much dirt, if you know what I mean. You work fast, man. Damn. Well, again, I do this show. Chris says I work fast. I do this show once a week, and then I've got the rest of the week to get some more done. And so a lot of times I have to wait till later to create the broadcast because I'm not sure what the title's going to be. You know, it's like I could say, yeah, I'm going to do base work, or I'm going to finish doing decals, and then by the time the show shows up, I'm done with decals and I'm moving on to something else. So a lot of times I wait till Sunday or Monday to create the next broadcast, so I know where I'm going to be when it comes time to start the show. So hence the reason for that. So today I said base work, but essentially I hadn't even started the base when I created that one, and then I just stained this, and there's a little chunk off the bottom here so I made that look like a broken piece of concrete. I can actually dirty that up a little bit too. So so when I got here, I actually went in and edited the description to include the figure painting because I wasn't sure that I was actually going to be doing that tonight, but it looks like I might actually have time to do a little bit of that figure painting. Slow down. I'm sorry. Okay. I'll try to slow down a little bit. I know it's going to be one of those times where I'm going to say, all right, we'll see you guys next week or for part 9. And then part 9 never comes because I'm done. It's time to move on to a new project. So we'll see. I have decided what's next on the bench, though. I'll give you one guess, George. What's next on the bench? What do you think I'm going to build next? Let's put that out there. Let's take a poll. All right, I really like the way this is starting to turn out. It's starting to look. It's a little bit more contrast on camera. I'm looking at it, in person, and these colors blend a little bit. It looks a little bit more, almost like a grayscale picture, where you can see the black and white a lot easier. But really, what's that Macross? Well, you are correct. It is a Macross kit. Which one is it going to be? Julia says Macross. Well, you got half of it right. So probably next week we'll be starting that project. So I think I'm going to be done with this before next Wednesday. So we'll probably be done with this project. I'll probably do a recap, and then we'll get on to the next one. You're thinking William Rao, and you would be correct, George. That is what I'm going to start next. Oops, I see where I messed up here. I got to do a little bit more coming off this line here. Okay. All right, I might add a little bit. This corner is a little lonely over here. Ooh, shit. Look at all that. That was a little too heavy on the brush. I have to blend that out. That's all right. Because the kit's going to stand on this section here, so I'm not too worried about it. Well, you see how quickly that can happen. Well, you got too much pigment in the brush. You got to be careful. So I'm just going to bring that corner. I'm going to bring that off that corner. Just darken it up and kind of pull it in from that edge. Okay. There. It's a little bit better. And I'm just going to overall kind of darken everything up just to take that starkness out of the concrete. I like the way that looks, though. It is quite a bit brighter on camera, though. Damn, I'm smart. Or maybe I've been spending too much time watching you. That is true, George. But that's not a bad thing. I don't always get to see all of your broadcasts. I listen to it mostly in the car while I'm driving to work every day. So. But so, yeah, it makes my morning commute go a little bit quicker, even though it's only about 40 minutes driving to work. But I think it looks pretty good. It looks a lot better than it did, I think, before, because before it was just trying to blend this out. You might even see some dust coming up as I'm doing this, because I'm just just kind of getting into those little holes and stuff with the brush, and kind of just spreading out that pigment. Softening up those. Okay. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I think I like that. So thanks for the idea, Angel. I got a little test piece of wood. That was what I used to. You can see all the black on there. That was for me pulling this pigment off. So now, question is, do I make these oil stains a little bit larger? Less uniform surface. Yeah, I think so too, George. I think that's what I just couldn't see it. It took some input from you guys to figure it out, because I knew that it needed something. I just was having a hard time visualizing exactly what I was going to do. So that's a start. If I need to come back and retouch some of that, I can. It is quite a bit darker, though, in person. So the kit sits right here, facing that way. So I had a lot of these oil stains underneath it, somewhat underneath it. I guess I could start. What I did before was I started with fuel stain, which kind of gives me my outline, and then I went in and darkened it up in the middle of that with some engine oil and engine grime. Engine grime dries more of a flat color, whereas the engine oil dries glossy, which is kind of a nice effect, because it gives that fresh oil spill kind of thing. And you can see this is fuel stain, and it's kind of it's almost like, it looks brownish kind of red, but it's very clear when it goes on. And but it almost has like a pinkish tone to it. So I'm just going to start adding a little bit of this to the outer edge. You can kind of see how that starts. Maybe making this spot a little bit larger in the center. I might move it back this way a little bit because the legs stand right about here. So I guess I could go forward. The body is pretty much in this whole area here. So if there was some kind of a leak, or it doesn't take much to make a big spot of oil. If you've ever spilled oil, one little drop will spread out to something 20 times its size. It really spreads out very quickly. So I'm going to make this more of a round spot. I am going to kind of branch out, make it uneven here in a second. I'm just going to kind of add some, make that shiny in the middle. And then I'll add some oil stain and some grime, and that'll make it darker all around. Right now I'm just kind of putting down the first layer of this fuel stain. And before I go any further, let me put the kit on here, and we'll see kind of where it stands. So I'm going to stand right about there. So yeah, that's pretty much right underneath it, underneath the belly of it. It kind of covers it up from where you guys are standing. If I tilt it back here, you'll see what I'm talking about. So right about there. I think that's a good place to start. Let's set this guy aside. All right, let's switch over to, I'm not going to worry about cleaning the brush. I'm just going to switch over to some engine oil. And we'll add that to the center. Maybe some of that grime. The grime will be a little bit darker. So I'm going to take this right off the cap. Since I already shook it up here, there's enough of it on the cap that I can. The engine oil is also relatively light when it spreads out. So the grime is really what I ended up using to darken it up at the end. There's actually 3 layers of colors here going on this enamel based. And as that spreads out, it looks like more of a natural spot. I'm just gonna. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Dogs are freaking out next door. Somebody's getting ate. Sound like. Add a little bit of randomness to this. Some darker spots out here. Let's see. Let's go over there. Okay. We'll even add a trail leading up to, if the Jerry was to walk up and stop, if it had some kind of a major fluid leak going on here, there might be a trail walking in from this direction. So, I mean, I've worked in shops for over 30 years, and you drive a car in when it's got a major oil leak, it tends to follow the car around a lot wherever you're driving it. All right. Okay, now that I got the engine oil down, I'm going to go switch over to grime. This is engine grime. It's another fairly thin color, but it's darker. It looks more like, it's like a darker gray. It looks more like what happens when engine oil gets a lot of dirt and crap in it. But also, so we can take this and work our way back, following that trail, but also kind of lighten up the center of that. When I say lighting up, I mean like highlighting that the center area where that oil spill is. That's good enough. Okay. Trying to paint through an allergy attack. You know what? It's funny you should say that, Mike, because literally 30 minutes before the show tonight, I started sneezing. Bob Ross, happy paintbrush. Yeah. Anyway, getting back, I started sneezing, and it literally, I hate that because I probably sneezed 15 times in a row. My face, my eyes were all watering and swollen, and my voice got all froggy. You can kind of hear it in my voice still. I'm just like, man, this sucks. I'm just glad it didn't happen on camera. It doesn't happen very often. It's happened more often than not lately, but it's just been a nightmare. I hate those things. Once it kicks off like that, it's just no stopping it. You just have to let it run its course. So, okay. So I kind of like where that is. That's going. I'm going to leave it the way it is. What do you guys think? Looks like a pretty good splotch of oil right underneath it. So if I put this down, I'm not going to make tracks over it. So if we tilt this back so you can see it, so that's pretty much right underneath. And then, like I said, we're going to park our little figure right in the middle here, right in front. And then I got a couple jerry cans, a couple oil cans. Still got to prime and paint those. He's going to have a coffee cup in his hand. You can see his hands already like this, getting ready to hold a cup, but there's nothing in it. So a couple coffee cups. Be a toolbox with the lid open like that. That's going to have a bunch of tools inside, basically spread out around this area here on both sides. I think that's, and then we'll be done. So let me take this back off, and then we'll head over and start figure painting. We'll let this dry. Oops, almost knocked over my kit. We'll move this aside, slide this back, and then put the toothpick back in here. So let me first grab the instructions for this because it has the color codes in it. Like I said earlier, this is a Hasegawa set. So there are Hasegawa color codes for painting this. I'm going to have to do some mixing. For something small like this, I don't really like to mix, but I've got some empty bottles and a couple of things I can use, spare stuff so I can mix small batch stuff and not have to worry about it. But basically, the coat and the pants is the majority of it, and including the boots even, they're all pretty much the same color, just a little bit different mix. Like the jacket is let's see, let me start over. His hat and his pants are done in number 60 and 38, which is this guy right here. So 60 and 38, 80, it's 70-30 mix on those. Yikes. FG, what does that mean? Am I missing something here? Did you see this already? I was going to show you the face. Get it to focus here real quick. There we go. So I added some Citadel highlights to highlight the face. I still need to paint some of the features like the eyes and the teeth and maybe some around the mouth. It looks, like I said, it looks a lot darker on the camera, but it's not quite. Oh my gosh, I had this working out before. There we go. It's like I had it working where it would stand up on its own. So anyway, the pants and the boots, the upper part of the boots are done 70-30. And then if we take the jacket is 42 and 38. So it's these two colors instead, but it's 80-20. So it's almost the same. I've got an empty bottle of 60 here. So I think what I'll do is I'll use this one to mix up the color for the pants. Since this was already 60 was already in it, I'll just pour a little bit in here and make my custom color out of that. And then we'll move on to the other one. I think I have one more. Oh yeah, I got a couple of charts here. Actually, if I use that, yeah, okay. I don't need this one. I had an extra Tamiya bottle, but I realize I've got this empty. So I'll use that for the jacket, and I'll use this other little tester's bottle, small batch. I can mix up the jacket color, and that's pretty much it. The others are like the buff color here. This is called hemp, actually. This is number 336. That is for this collar, and then a little bit on the top front of the of his head, his forehead, is where that color is used, and that just straight out of the bottle. So I've already thinned that, and I already painted that on the collar. I haven't done his forehead yet. But anyway, let's mix up some colors here. Let's start with the pant color and the boots. Like I said, this is an old jar, so it's already empty. I'm just going to take a little bit of my, this is 70-30. I'm not worried about the percentages too much because it's just a custom color. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to thin this a little bit before I mix, only because it's not going to hurt it at all. It's a little bit thicker than what I would paint it right out of the bottle. So I'm just going to add some leveling thinner, which is what I like to use every single color, even when I'm hand painting. Okay, that's pretty good. So 70-30. All right, so we're going to start with, I'm just going to pour some in this other bottle. All right, I'm not going to need much. Yeah, clean off my stir stick. Okay, let's see. There we go. Let's put this back on now. The other color was 38, so 30%, 38. I already thinned this out the other day, so all I got to do is stir it up, and then we're ready to go. This is more of like this is an olive drab, so a lot of green, dark green and brown notes to it. just really just so I'm going to go right about there. And I'm just guessing on the percentages. I'm not using the measurement lines on a bottle. Like some of these, like the Tamiya bottle, they have these little incremental lines that you can do exact measurements, but I'm not going to use this for anything else except this character. So it's funny, as I didn't even realize that I was picking, when I picked this color for the Super Jerry number 60, that's pretty much what the whole kit was painted in. I didn't realize it was the same color that they used for uniforms and stuff. So I'm going to make this a little bit darker. Let's see, that was 38, right? Yeah. I think I just like it a little bit darker. Painting on the instructions here. Heresy. Heresy. I like to use it as a guide. You know, it's really Hasegawa's fault that I'm using Mr. Colored paints. I'll tell you why. Because I used to use nothing but Tamiya, right? And then the first day I finally got a Hasegawa Macross kit, and it had Mr. Color colors in it. That's better. That looks pretty good compared to the original. Yeah, it's quite a bit darker. So when I was going to build that kit, I bought just the paints that I needed to complete that model. So it was about 5 or 6 colors, maybe. Can't remember at the most. And that was my first time of ever using Mr. Hobby Paints, Mr. Color. And I'll tell you, that was what got me hooked, because just the durability, I mean, yeah, it's lacquer, but still, it was just the amazing. Is this going to work? Yeah, I guess it will. I just really like how durable they are. Tamiya stuff was just, I mean, you let it dry and everything, then you come over and you rub your fingernail on it and scratch it right off. It was annoying to me. That's why I liked Mr. Color. So then I ended up eventually just transitioning completely over to that. So this is 60, 70%, and 30%. Okay. I'm just marking my bottle here. All right, that one's done. Now we're going to do the jacket. So I'm going to use this other jar here. This is using 42 and 38. So we're using the darker two colors. 80% 42, which is mahogany, and 20% olive drab. So let's see what mahogany is. It looks like I'm going to have to add some thinner to this too. Yeah. Definitely too thick. Okay, so 80-20. All right, let's do this. I don't need to put too much, just enough to do my mix, because again, this is only for this one kit, so it's one little figure. Actually, you know what? I've got other figures in this set, so it wouldn't be too big a deal. If I ended up doing another figure, I'd still have the colors for it. So 20% olive drab. We're just going to put about that much in there. recap. All right, let's mix it up. Get a little more of that olive drab. There we go. It's probably not perfect 80-20, but like I said, I don't care. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Oops. I messed up my instructions. I got a drip on there. And I may need to thin that out some more too before I start painting with it, but because I am going to hand paint this mostly. I'm going to label this first. Okay. Okay. All right. Done deal. How's everybody's Wednesday going, huh? Mine went pretty flawless, I should say. Let's see. So let's start with, I'm going to go straight into the hemp again. I'm going to finish doing this forehead, which is just a little bit of a, it's kind of like a fluff, you know, one of those, I don't know what you call it, those hats that have that kind of that lining in them, like that wool lining. It's kind of what we're doing here. So this hemp color is perfect for that because it's just a really light tan. I'm just going to take them off the toothpick. It's just easier to hold this guy. All right. I may relabel that other one. Instead of putting the percentages on it, I'm just going to write down what I'm using it for. So actually, I think we're going to go, you know what? Let's go with a different brush. Let's go with this guy. All right. So it's just a little bit of that fluff layer that's kind of folded out from under his hat or his helmet or whatever you want to call it. Yes, I am hand painting with Mr. Color. I know it's not normal, and I agree. It's not for everybody. But if you thin it properly, it can be done. You just can't mess around much. You have to keep working. Because if you do hang around too much, it'll start drying on you, and then you'll end up maybe having issues. But it's one of the reasons I use leveling thinner too. It's because it has a little bit of a retarder in it, which reduces the drying time. Not reduces, I mean increases the drying time, excuse me. And allows the paint to lay down smoother and not leave any brush strokes. And I don't do it I wouldn't paint an entire kit this way, especially with this paint. This is really the only time I do any hand painting like this is when I'm doing either detail work or painting a figure or touch-ups, stuff like that. I don't recommend painting a large flat surface with it. It will not come out right. But for this, certainly it'll be fine. So, let's see here. Now, the rest of his head is going to be done in this, and I think I might add another piece of tape here. Just the last of this roll. label this a little bit more clear here. This is just for pants. And, all right. So nobody answered. Did you guys answer me? How's your Wednesday going? No, nobody's talking. Everybody's just building. That's what it sounds like to me. So I'm going to start with the head. Working on the rest of the head here. I think we can, safely do that. Should already be mixed. Yeah, looks good. I like that color. It's a little bit darker than the Jerry was painted in. Because the Jerry was just that one number 60. All right. His head was a separate piece. The collar was also a separate piece. So there's actually some really deep kind of gaps way down there where the between the neck and the collar. So I might have to do some touch-ups because I got to get down in there kind of deep to get all that color way down in there. Yeah, I like this. It's very much like just a military green that this turned out to with this color combination. So it looks good. Trying to be extra careful not to get any on the face because that's really it's the only part that I airbrushed. So it's going to be a little bit harder to touch that up if I make a mistake. And I will go over this with some kind of a panel liner, probably a brown or something, one of my brown panel lines. The black will be a little too stark. Good, I have every vision and every color in my 100 mecha decals, every version, excuse me, spread all over my desk as I try to pick appropriate ones for the Sniper 2. My eyes don't work well, so I'm wearing magnifiers. Hey, I'm wearing magnifiers all the time now. Julius, don't stress it. And I know what you mean because when I use some mecha decals, I'll a lot of times it's like, well, they're all good, but which color is going to look best on the color that I'm using, painting or putting decals on? Which one's going to show up the best, So yeah, I've got every version too and every color. They had a sale last year a little bit, and I had most of them already, sheets 1, 2, and 3, but I didn't have the new one until recently when they had a little sale going, so I decided to go in and just buy them. at the time. All right, so that is the head essentially done. I've got to do a little bit more around the neck area here. I'm going to have to get in there tight with a brush. It looks like I'm going to have to do a little touch up on the collar, but that's easy. I'm just going to get down in here, get that neck area. But some of that I'll fill in with panel liner too. The backing sheet makes it hard to read them, especially the white ones. Yeah, I agree. That is true. Magnifiers are a must in this hobby. That is true too, George. Especially when you get up in our age group. Yeah, going back to the decals, Mike is not kidding. A lot of times, I've even done that where I wanted to use a white decal, but I actually had to pull out like the red or the gray sheet so I could take a picture of it and zoom in and see, is this the one I actually want? Because the white ones, I couldn't tell, what I was looking at. So I'm totally with you there when it comes to Mecha decals. They're brilliant decals. I mean, I can't say enough about them. I've always talked very highly of them. But yeah, sometimes you got to look at the other sheets and go, okay, that's what I want. And then you just cut it out, looking at it, knowing what you're. So 80-20. That's not the 80-20. Oh, I got to do the boots. Pants and boots. Boots and pants and boots and pants. And the gloves are also in this color. Okay, so I'll tell you what. Let's do that. Let me get. You know what? I can do the gloves with this brush. So his head, his gloves, his boots, and his pants are all done in this color. The jacket's really it's more like a bomber jacket color. It's kind of like that brownish. Oh man, need to use the iPhone. Yeah, well, I have a magnifier on my phone too, but a lot of times it's easier just to zoom in or take a photo and then zoom in with it, and then you can see it, just zoom in at your photo and read it. But it does take some time, especially if you're sifting through trying to find a specific looking decal. It's often easier, like I said, just to use the other sheets, just to break out the red one or the gray sheet and just start looking at them so you can. But they're so small, even the 1/100s are hard to read unless you zoom in. So sometimes, it takes. I'll go through and I'll take 10, 15 pictures of different decals just because I'm trying to see which one has the, whatever dialogue or writing on it that makes sense for what I'm trying to do. Especially if people might actually be able to read it. All right. Let's see, where are we at? We're at 7:20. Got about another 10 minutes or so. So I'm just continuing on with the painting the figure here. So I think this is going to go fairly quickly because there's not a whole lot of colors that I have to worry about. The hardest part's going to be getting down in here to get this glove painted. It's all right. That's what touch-ups are for. Getting the underside of it. So yeah, so far that's what we got. And this will be flat coated, of course. I mean, this number 60 is semi-gloss mixed with the flat olive drab. So it's going to be kind of a semi-flat at this point. But of course, I'm going to have to go back and flat coat and everything anyway. Gloss coat it, do my panel lining, and flat coat. Oh yeah, then you put them on upside down. Yeah, don't do that. That's the whole. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'm laughing because I've done it. I don't think I've actually put one on upside down, but I could see how quickly it can happen because you got to pay attention to when you cut it off the sheet. It's like, oh man, it's the worst. The worst part of that scenario would be coming back the next day or something, or after you've already glossed over them and sealed them, and then realize you got one upside down. I had a friend of mine do that. I know he did the same thing once. He went out, actually admitted it. He just went and said, "Yep, this one's upside down." What are you gonna do? Fortunately, it was in some kind of a foreign language like Japanese writing, so it wasn't as noticeable, I guess I should say. It wasn't like you were reading English language upside down. So I'm going like between his arms here to get this glove. It's really a difficult spot. Actually, I'm going to have to go through his hand here where the cup is going to go. Affords me just enough space to get through there and get the rest of that glove. Okay. So then this is also going to be the top fabric part of the boots and his pants are all done in the same color. Where are we at? 722. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. I might try to do his boots, I guess, or a boot before we close up shop for the night. Because the pants are the same color as this, I'm not too worried about getting on there. So I'm just going to get majority of the boot here. These are like a military style boot where you have a canvas top, a canvas upper, and then a leather, lower and sole, rubber soles. So if you're familiar with that type of boot, it's pretty much that whole bottom or top half of the boot is all done in that canvas fabric. It's military. It's more like almost like a ripstop. Really durable. So I still have to do the pants, but I'm going to see if I can't get the lowers done on, or I keep saying lower, get the upper portion done on these boots on both sides, and then we'll call it. This paint is going on really, really well, actually. I think I've got the perfect consistency as far as like the amount of leveling thinner I use. It's not showing primer underneath it. I don't have to go over and recoat it, but it's also going on and it's not too thick and it's not too thin either. So it's working out nice. Who hasn't done that? Yeah, George says, I always catch it the next day while looking at the whip picks at work. That's the worst. Like I said, you're like, man, this looks great. And then you go, oh, wait. Oh, my God, I didn't. I can safely say I've not done that, but knock on wood. What did my dad used to say? When you say it hasn't happened to me yet, and yet stands for you're eligible too. In other words, don't say yet because your turn's coming. All right. I'll get a bigger brush out when I go to do the pants here, but I'm just trying to finish up both of these uppers on the boots, and then we'll sign off. Yeah. I think the thing that's going to take the longest is painting all the little tools. I sprayed them with silver, but I got to paint all the little handles and got a bunch of pliers, and so there's a lot of little handles and stuff I got to paint. All right. A little more right here. Okay. Let's take your toothpick. There we go. That way he can sit there and dry. I don't like these jars, but they're good for when you need an empty or something like that. These old Mr. Color jars with that stupid lid on them. But if you use them up, clean them out and save them, because you never know when you like this. I might need an empty jar to mix up a custom color in or something like that. I keep a few of them laying around, even though it's only $1 or $2 for those empties. You know, if you buy the Mr. Color ones. The next day, I found a decal that moved, but I was able to re-wet it and move it back. Really? Wow. Did you not use any kind of leveling? A setter or anything on it? Because I cannot see that. I mean, that's usually the next day it's done. I mean, when it's set, it's set. I don't see that. That'd be difficult, but man. Okay, so let's recap. Let's pull this back into view here. So my spot is pretty shiny. You can kind of see the oil there. That's the oil showing through, which is kind of cool. Gives it that no setter. Well, that definitely helped you out. It saved your butt, because I use the Mr. Hobby, the setter softener. I have both, but this is my go-to here. The funny thing is, like if you look at this one, they both include a softener. So I'm really not sure what the huge difference is between the two. If anybody knows, enlighten me, but I usually use just the softener. The setter, maybe the setter just has a setting solution, but they're pretty much all the same. It's just a slight variance. Anyway, so I'm pretty happy with the way this is going. I may tweak it a little bit more, but I think I'm gonna stop here where it's at, and then one other thing I might do is I might put a couple magnets in here. We'll see if I can, if I'm comfortable with just setting the kit on top, I might just do it and go ahead with that. But if not, it won't be too hard. I'll just drill a couple holes in the feet and put a couple magnets, set a couple magnets in here, and then that way it'll click right on and stay there. Because I could just see this thing going to an IPMS or something, and there's always going to be some judge invariably that's going to go, here, let me pick it up and look at it or something and dump it. Because I know one of my friends, Dan in California, he had a judge pick up one of his tanks on the base and actually dumped it and knocked off a bunch of his photo etch and banged it up, and then had to write him a note and apologize for damaging his kit. I mean, it worked out in the end. It looked like just wear and tear and battle damage, but once he fixed it. But man, that's not cool to come back and see your stuff laying there in pieces. I mean, I would be really upset, especially with the amount of hours that we put into this thing. So get some of this stuff out of my reach here. I'm gonna switch cameras. So let's go back up here. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming in tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. As always, every week, you guys help me and support this channel. Keep it going. Don't forget, I do have a Amazon shop that you guys can check out and look at some of the tools and supplies I use every single week, every single day in this hobby. What else? Yeah, I don't know. I'm a loss of words right now. Thanks for an educational and fun time tonight, Mike. Appreciate you. Yes, George, thank you. As always, I appreciate you too. So with that, I guess we'll call this one a show and move on. We'll see you next week. I will probably be done with this during the week, so I might do a recap and hopefully do a recap, and then we'll move on to the next project, which will be the Macross William Raw, I think that's how you say it. Don't quote me on that because I always get that one wrong. So smash the like button, guys. Yes, please. Thank you, George. I appreciate that. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Check us out, and we'll catch you on the flip side. We'll see you next week. Talk to you soon. Let's bring up the outgo. All right, guys. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.